أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين، لا سيما مولانا وحجتنا بقية الله في السماوات والأرضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We started an important discussion regarding the obligations of namaz. We talk about the qiyam, and tonight inshallah we will talk about qira'at, recitation. In our prayers, one of the things that's wajib is qira'at. And in qira'at, when we recite hamd and surah, we must pronounce letters properly. For example, the letter ha cannot be pronounced ha. I cannot say like this, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. That's wrong. Alam means pain. Alam means flag. Ilm means knowledge. See, a lot of differences, right? So we cannot say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I have to pronounce it properly. Alhamdu lillahi Rabbil Alameen. And Fatha, Kasra, Zamma, everything must be nice pronounced. What about if intentionally I say like this? With some people, they say, unfortunately, they say, you know what, it's okay. Allah is Kareem. I'm going to recite whatever I can. It's okay. I don't want to go and learn, and that's fine. This person actually gets the seat of mujtahid and says, you know what, it's fine. This person's namaz is totally batil. This is the opinion of our maraji', that if someone intentionally does not want to learn, he can, but he does not want to learn. He says, I don't care, it's fine. This person's namaz is batil. So we have to be careful. Some people, they try, but they don't learn. They come and they try to learn because of their age, and they have a pronunciation problem. This is different. Then they will become mariz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Laysa ala al-marizi haraj. But if they can, and they can learn, and they can pronounce properly, they have to learn and they have to pronounce nicely. So this is one thing. Then if they cannot do it, and jama'at is available for them, they have to go to the jama'at. This is one thing. They cannot intentionally skip Hamd and Surah. For example, he says like this, you know what, I'm not going to recite the Hamd and Surah and I'm going to go to the Ruku'. So this namaz is batil and invalidated. What about if I forget? It depends where did I forget. If I forgot after ruku', for example, right now I am performing my ruku'. I am right at the ruku' position and I'm saying this, Subhana Rabbi al-Azimi wa bihamdih. Right there, I remember that, oh my God, I didn't recite Surah Al-Hamd. What am I supposed to do? Here he's not going to do nothing and his namaz is fine. He's going to continue. There's nothing wrong with that. But if he remembers that before going to the ruku', he must start Hamd and Surah and then go to the ruku'. This is one. In the morning prayer, Maghrib and Isha, it's obligated on men to recite Hamd and Surah loudly. For example, all the men, they must recite Hamd and Surah loudly. So we have to say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alam. This is called Jahr in Arabic. Loud means Jahr in Arabic. What about if someone intentionally does not want to recite loudly? He knows that in Fajr prayer, I have to recite Hamd and Surah loudly, but he does not do it intentionally. What will happen? His namaz is batil. Even if it's one word, even one word. Intentionally, he says, you know what? I'm not going to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim loud. It's fine. I don't want to say it. If he says that intentionally and he knows that that's wajib on him to pronounce the letters and the words loudly and he does not do it intentionally, so this namaz is batil. What about if he forgot? If he forgot, so wherever he remembers, he should continue loudly. What about sisters? For sisters, this ahkam is optional. They can recite loudly or they can skip it. If there is non-mahram in the house or in the room, for example, a non-mahram is there, in Mahdiya, for example, upstairs, she wants to recite Hamd and Surah in her prayers, and there is a man over there, non-mahram, then she should not recite loudly. This is another ahkam about the qira'at. In our prayers, we cannot switch Hamd and Surah. Always Hamd should be recited first and then Surah. So this is easy. 4 surahs cannot be read and recited in our prayers. Do you know what surahs are? 4 surahs you cannot recite it in the prayers in namaz. The surahs that have obligatory sajda. Surah Fussilat, Surah Sajda, Surah Najm, and Surah Alaq. Iqra' bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq. You cannot recite these 4 surahs in your namaz. So what about if I'm in the middle of the prayer and someone is there next to me and he recites the ayah that has sajda wajib? What am I supposed to do? Are you sure?
No. You complete your praying and then after.
Okay. It's very important. We have to know that because sometimes we are in the middle of the prayers and somebody recite that ayah, maybe intentionally he comes in front of me and he says, listen, Saeed, I'm reciting right now the sajda wajib. See what you're going to do. In our fiqh, it says you just point it. You just point to the sajda. For example, you don't even have to say anything. You're in the middle of the prayers, you say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, somebody said it. Just point it. But don't go down. Don't prostrate. Don't go down. Just act like you're doing sajda. But at the end of the prayers, when the namaz is finished, once you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, then there you're going to do the sajda. Okay? So the 2 things. Number 1 is pointing, because we want to still respect the ayah. Number 2 is doing sajda, but right after salam. What about, yes,
What about if you don't know it's a sajda? Some people, I don't know.
yeah, if you don't know it's something, yeah, you don't have to. That's for the time that you're 100% sure and someone comes to you and tells you, listen, I'm going to recite the sajda wajib, you have to do the sajda, so he wants to, bother you. So this isn't. What about if someone is listening to the YouTube and the sajda wajib is coming? Do you have to do the sajda?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
The law is whenever you hear the Surah Sajda Wajib, you have to do it, regardless.
No. For videos and for the person who already died, you don't have to do that. It's not wajib. It's wajib only when the person is right there in front of you and he's reciting it in front of you, live. Not video, no YouTube, no dead person.
No radio, for example.
Radio or anything. For example, Abdul Basit recites for you the ayah that has sajda wajib and you're praying. So you don't have to do that.
Right.
You're in the middle of your namaz and your prayers, and then someone on YouTube or a TV or something recites the ayah sajda, you don't have to do anything. That's not wajib. Wajib is only for the time when you yourself recite or someone over there is sitting right next to you and you hear it. Or someone is on microphone or something reciting loudly that that person is right there live. For example, in Mahdiya, someone takes the microphone and starts reciting surah that has sajda wajib. That's going to become wajib on you. But if you listen to the YouTube, if you listen to the TV, if the person died, you don't have to do that. So this is another thing about ahkam. Two surahs, if you recite it in your prayers, you cannot recite that surah alone. Do you know what surahs are? One of those is Surah Zuha. If you recite Zuha, you have to recite Surah Inshirah with that too. For example, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى وَلَلْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. See, it's finished. Here in namaz and prayers, you cannot stop here. You have to start Surah Inshirah too. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alam nashrah laka sadrak wa wada'na anka wizrak alladhi anqadha dhahrak wa rafa'na laka dhikrak fa inna ma'al usri yusra inna ma'al usri yusra fa idha faraghta fansab wa ila rabbika farghab. So two surahs in the Holy Quran in our prayers, in our namaz, are considered one surah. Surah Zuha and Inshirah. What is the other one? Surah Fil and Surah Quraysh. If I recite Surah Fil, I have to recite Surah Quraysh too. Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Alam yaj'al kaydahum fi tadlil. وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف وليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي يطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. So this is these two surahs are considered one surah in namaz. Yes.
You're in Jama'at and the Imam only recites one. What do you do?
If you're in the Jama'at and Imam is doing that's Imam, you cannot, if he knows it and intentionally he does it, so his namaz is becoming batil. But if he does not know it, a lot of people did not know that the Surah Zuha and Inshirah should be joined, right? So they have been praying like this for many, many years. So the prayers that they were doing before is fine. But if everything in Islam is for the time when you do it intentionally, anything. Remember in the month of Ramadan, we said that you go home, you're fasting. You go home, you open the fridge, you eat the kebab and everything, and suddenly you remember that you're fasting, right? So anything you ate before is fine, but right now is important. You have a little bit food in your mouth. If you continue eating, then it will become kafara al qaza.
He doesn't know. Let's say he assume he doesn't know, but you know it. Should you continue or should you look for other funds?
You over there. If he's making mistake, anything that the imam is making mistake,
We have to follow it.
we can change our niyat from jama'ah to furada, and we can continue ourselves. For example, I know that imam is doing something that is namaz is batil, right? So when I know this, for example, like one time, one of the brothers, he was leading the namaz, and he was reciting surah wrongly. He was not pronouncing it properly. He was saying like this: "Ghul huwal ghul, ghul huwallahu ahad, Allah ghul." If you say ghul, this is qul, but he said ghul huwal. He said غير المغضوب. He said غير المغضوب. I said to myself, you know what? This namaz is batil. I can't join to this person, so I have to remind him later that you're doing it wrong. And he said Allahu Samad with the sin. So over there, I did my niyat farada and I continued namaz myself. Most of the time, you can even start your prayers. Like for example, you go to Medina, like I was in Medina. I don't join to their Jamaat. I'm not going to join to their Jamaat. My niyat is individual, farada, right? But I have to go to the ruku' and sajda with them. And then over there, for example, maybe in the first rak'at, he waits like 4 minutes. And then my hamd and surah will be finished in 2 minutes, right? What should I do over there? Can I become just quiet? No. You just keep repeating the surah. For example, Surah Qul Huwallah, you repeat it like 100 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times until he goes to the. Here, Mujtahidin says is not a problem. You can do that in this case, because you don't want to break the Jama'at, and you're trying to respect the Imam, and sometimes your life is in danger. You don't know where you are. Like over there in Medina, if you do individually, everyone is going to look at you, so you have to do the Jama'at. So over there is not a problem.
Some of the Mujtahideen says you can do Jamaat with them.
It depends. As I said, the niyyat, they can do the jama'ah, but the niyyat should be individual. That's the thing. But only, it depends. As what I say here is from Ayatollah al-Maisi study. I don't have any information about other maraja, but if they told you and you're 100% sure, because one of the things is in our faith, in our mazhab, is adalat. We believe that whoever does not believe to Imam Zaman alayhi salatu wasalam, he's not adil, because imamat is something important for us. It's wajib. It's an important part of our religion. Without imamat, we believe that our Islam is incompleted. So when I know that his Islam is incompleted, so he's not adil for me. The mujtahideen, I'm 100% sure, but you just want to make sure you just search it, and if you find it, let me know. Maybe I am wrong. What I heard from ulama, and I saw myself, you can join to your jama'at with the niyat of furada.
Now, I was told that you can join with the actually doing with them, and some of ulama said you better repeat it later on at home, but
Yeah.
when you're doing with them, do it Jamaat.
The jama'at.
And if you said you don't even have to do it later on, but some of them said you better do.
It's
your
good to
namaz
search a little
again
bit.
later.
Please search about it, because the thing is, so far we can always join to their jama'at. Nothing is wrong, but because their namaz is different. For example, for tashahhud, they're not going to say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Hamd and surah is wajib for us in the first rakat and second rakat, right? But they don't recite a complete surah. They just recite an ayah. So when something, just logically, you think with yourself logically, forget about what that person told you. Maybe he didn't understand it exactly. So if you're a mujtahid and you keep saying in your risala, that's wajib on you to recite hamd and surah. and you know that the Imam is only reciting Hamd, but he's not reciting Surah. He recites one ayah, right? So you know that yourself. Or for example, you know that the Imam 100% is not Adil. How come you can join? Logically, think with yourself. But always Mujtahidin says you can join to the Jama'at, no problem. You can say it's done many, many times, but the niyyat must be individual. You're doing a niyyat individual, you go to the ruku' with them, you go sajda with them, but you recite what you're supposed to do. Everyone's faith is, and this is in Shia, but them, they don't have this. They don't join to our Jama'at. In their fiqh, it says, if you join to Shia Jama'at, your namaz will become batil. But we don't say that. We say it's a lot of sawab to join and pray with them.
Do you know like the sunnah of Rasulullah with like saying just one complete surah or part of the surah?
Whatever you see in our faith, it doesn't. If you don't believe like this, then we are not a good Muslim. That whatever we're doing is exactly what Rasulullah was doing. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reciting complete surah after Hamd. And imagine yourself. Is it good to recite one ayah, two ayah, or complete surah? So logically, it's acceptable for you to recite complete surah, not only one ayah, because you want to start the surah and finish the surah. That's a better respect. But if you just recite one ayah, for example, in their faith, they recite like this, for example. After Hamd, usually they recite, for example, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير الله أكبر. What else? Just one ayah? That's it?
Or maybe few ayahs, but
Or
then
few
you have
ayahs.
part of it.
Sometimes
Part
they
of
choose
this.
the longer surah and then do one page of it.
Yeah, they do one. It depends, but they even can do it one ayah. They can even say it, for example, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. That's in their fiqh. But we don't have this. We have to start the surah and finish the surah. So this is something that we have to search about it. One of the things that's actually wajib in our prayers, in our namaz, is qira'at. And the qira'at, we have to be sure about the surah that we start. We have to make sure to finish the surah. What about if I forget the surah? For example, I start surah Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Wa ma adraka ma laylatul qadr. What is the next ayah? Suddenly, you're confused. You don't know what to do. So you come back. You go another surah. For example, you go to two surahs intention. Or for example, I know the surah in Anzalna, but I'm before middle of the surah. I want to change my mind. I can do it, no problem. Only two surahs intentionally cannot change it. Do you know what surahs are? One is Qul Hamd is always. You have to recite Hamd always. One is Qul Huwallahu Ahad. What is the other one? The other one is Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun, Surah Kafirun. Surah Kafirun and Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad. When we start it, we have to finish it, and we cannot change our mind. But if we forgot Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad and Surah Kafirun, that we don't know the rest of the surah, and we forgot it, that's a different case. We can change it. But intentionally, we cannot change the surah and go to another surah. Any question?
So I just have one question regarding like that. We have to recite Duha and Shara
Yes.
together. So what is the reason? So it's like
Because the meaning are connected to each other.
are considered as one surah or no? That the meaning is connected.
The meaning are connected. Sometimes, some of the ayat, for example, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمَ وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. Wail is Jahannam. Musallin means prayers, the people who pray. So if you stop there, it means that the people who pray, they will get punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to add the next ayah, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Which musallin? Which one will get punished? The people who don't care about their prayers, do not pay attention to their prayers. They do not respect their prayers. They will get punished. Not every prayers. So here, وَأَمَّا بَنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. You remember the ni'amat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say it. And then the next ayah, أَلَمْ نَشْرَحْ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ. So Rasulullah said that, right? Rasulullah said that, and because of that, Rasulullah got sharh sadr. أَلَمْ نَشْرَحْ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ وَوَضَعْنَا عَنْكَ وِزْرَكَ الَّذِي. You look at the meaning, inshallah, you will know that. Also Surah Fil and Surah Quraysh, inshallah.
In second rak'ah, you have to do Qul Huwallahu Ahad, or it could be anything else.
You don't have to do, but there's a lot of thawab if you do Qul Huwallahu Ahad. You can do any surah.
Is it either one? Doesn't have to be first or second.
Yeah, doesn't matter. But it's good to, the mustahab is reciting Surah Inna Anzalna at the first rakat and Surah Qul Huwallah in the second rakat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma ajjal li waliyyika al-faraj. اللهم اقض حوائجنا الشرعية جزئية وكلية دنيوية وأخروية ظاهرية وباطنية بحق محمد وآله خير البرية. رحم الله لمن قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اینا زرگاه ترجمه فارسی داره، اینا بدون ترجمه